Even thinking of me as someone else above me. Gotta know, what am I gonna do? Cause I can't get through to you. So what's it gonna be? Tell me, can you hear me? I'm so sick of it, your attention deficit, never listen. Hey everyone, how's it going? It is I, the real Randy Chavez. I'm coming at you today with a VeVe OMI everything update video, but it's supposed to be Omi's My Homie episode 43. Not 100% sure if Doc's going to join us today. I feel like he might, but we shall get to that when we get to that. First, though, I would like to go on and start the show off with a message. This is a post by Metaverse Life saying that a light has gone out. It is with a very heavy heart that I post this today. Our brother, our talented collaborator, and our dearest friend, Kevin Lee Loader of Comics and Crypto, passed away early on the morning of March 3rd. The pain of this loss ripples deep into my core and is felt throughout the many lives that this man has brightened with his presence. He was, and always will be, one of the greatest treasures in our lives. Kevin is known for always being a source of positivity, jovial memories, and his strength through the humility. I'm lucky to call him one of my best friends and witness the power of his talent and the strength of his kind heart. We, his family, are struggling to come to terms with the loss of someone who has left to give the world while having so much love left to receive from it. 3 days ago, I was giving him a hug and saying I'd see him in a few weeks. 2 days ago, I was texting him to see how he was feeling, and he could still crack a joke. And yesterday, he was gone. We love you, Kevin. Rest in peace. And this is an amazing black and white photo with a pipe, looking all dapper AF. Oh, jealous, that hairline. Oh God, the beard. He was a good dude. He was a good egg. I wish I got to spend more time with him. I wish I was able to go in and hang out more. I think last I saw him was in New York. I know it was San Diego last year. Anyway, there's been a lot of posts like this from Sean, from VeVe Magic, from VeVe themselves. Actually, VeVe themselves actually posted something as well. Let me try to go to that. VeVe had posted. Oh, hey, no, meow, meow. Other stuff, meow, meow, meow.
Meow, meow, meow,
meow. Just going over the one last thing, we'll get started with the show. VeVe had gone on and said, our VeVe family mourns the tragic loss of one of our very best, whose legacy will continue to inspire our entire community and beyond. Blue heart. Yeah, that was a rough one. Did not expect that. Anyway, how are you doing today? How you doing on this? What's the Tuesday?
Had better days, man. Had better days. Yeah, today's been heavy in multiple aspects of my life. I mean, just even in the crypto space and VeVe space, with Kevin and just some other stuff. Personally, it's just been a bear. So I'm really looking forward to just interacting with you, man, chatting with the community. Hopefully brighten a little bit.
Yeah, we have a bunch to go over today. It's been a couple weeks since you've been here. We have had a full moon. We have had what else happened the end of February? Apple had an announcement. They had President's Day VeVe Verse launch. VeVe Verse had went and gone and done that stuff. Have you gone in there yet? I know not everyone has because it's only on computer, not on mobile yet. But have you seen? If you haven't gone in, have you seen the stuff?
I've seen a lot of showrooms, and some are just like epic. And then I'm it's been really cool to see people just diving into it, right? And being like, hey, I want tips and starting to build things. And even those just look like a lot of fun. So no, man, work and personal life has kept me so busy. So I miss it. And but I have been able to see some of the showrooms, and I saw that Seb3, he contracted someone to build out his VeVe Verse space. So like, it's been cool to see that, right? Like VeVe is now creating additional income for people through the VeVe Verse. And I think that we'll see that continue to expand, right? With Mr. MC1 has said in a space that he was going to be putting out kind of like a notice, right, for people to I guess like apply. I don't know. I don't know how he's going to do that, right? But probably have some conversations with them, right, and kind of get an understanding of their experience and all that jazz. So
whenever I hear or even say and all that jazz, I think, you ever see the movie Chicago?
And all that jazz. Yeah.
It's forever stuck in my brain as one of those like things that live in my head rent free, and I don't know why. Good movie. Anyway, did Seb3, did he ever? Who did he hire? I know he put the post out there, and a lot of people were responding, and people were tagging everyone. But who did he wind up getting to do that for him?
Let me see. Let's see if I can. Oh man, I need to learn how to type. Twitword.
Same, Van.
That's not gonna pull it up for me. There we go. Give me a second. Yeah, Truck and Hangman. It is sad. I just like. Yeah. Hey, I mean, if you guys are close at all with anyone in the chat or just watching, if you're close with any of the comics and crypto crew or Metaverse Life, or just, like, reach out to them, right? Like that's got to be heavy for them too, right? So I think that they just appreciate a lot of that love, man. Dude, that's just emotional. That's crazy.
Yeah, and obviously they are very beloved people. So they're probably getting a ton of messages. So if you reach out and they don't answer right away or it gets lost, obviously don't feel bad. They're probably getting just bombarded with that. But again, it is always nice to reach out. I have not yet done that myself. I just wanted to kind of let them be for right now. But yeah, definitely should be doing that as well.
So Master Roni, that's who it is. Master Roni is nice. He contracted with. So his @ is Bogdan Roni too, but Master Roni is what he goes by there. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
I wonder what the Master Roni is from. Is it because he likes macaroni? Is it a play on Master Roshi? Is it something that I'm not familiar with? Gotta ask. Get him on the podcast. Be like, hey, what's with your name? So it's been since last week. We've had a couple of things go on. You've had Kathleen Kennedy stepping down as Lucasfilm president, so that will affect the stuff that comes out with Star Wars. So it'll be great. New SpongeBob theme park land coming to Universal Studios theme park in Texas. I really want to go. There was a couple of Luca patch rookie autos that had sold for hundreds of thousands, and one even sold for 3.1 million, which is heckin' nuts. Gucci now accepts crypto payments at all stores. It's going to start. They didn't mention specifically which type of crypto. I'm just going to guess Bitcoin or ETH. I'm not really thinking about that. That is some of the stuff outside of the VeVe and OMI stuff that I think can affect it, where obviously VeVe being some of these collectibles, they do have one-of-one artist proofs. I think when you have some of these people that are like Luka, like one of the biggest names in basketball, probably the top, I don't know, maybe like top 50 like ever, probably even like top 30 like ever. The real person, that's where a lot of the value comes from. But people's careers are typically a decade or two, give or take. Whereas someone like Mickey Mouse, been around for a long time, always new content coming out. I know we don't have yet Pokemon or SpongeBob, but just these types of characters that will likely never be accused or even found guilty of any crimes that humans can be found guilty for, because they're cartoon characters. None of that stuff's going to happen. Do you see anything on VeVe, specifically like the artist proofs or any one-of-ones or like a 1-7 Aston Martin? Do you see those trying to reach like the 6-figure mark this bull run?
I guess it depends on, like, could it? Like, it could, right? Like, we saw Bored Ape Yacht Club, and we've seen like other artists and some of their stuff. Now, that's on the Ethereum blockchain, right? That we've seen that. But like, if the narrative hits of digital collectibles and VeVe gets into the spotlight, like absolutely, I could see some of the one of ones or certain things. I mean, look, some of that, like, I mean, the Spider-Man almost got to 6 figures by itself, right? And there's 1,000 of those. So could that happen again in a bull run if it hits the right narrative? Yeah. Will it? I don't know. It'd have to hit the right narrative, but I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility at all.
Yeah. It's in narrative. At some point, I think that comes back really strong. I mean, we knew that would come. We thought it would likely come back anyway, but now that Robinhood, Uniswap, Gemini, Coinbase, Consensus, all of these different companies are now no longer being investigated by the SEC. The SEC is like, hey, we're done investigating you guys. That does seem to be pretty bullish for VeVe and OMI, because a lot of the reasons that they had publicly said they were not pursuing certain things with a token or certain things that you could do via the app was because of fear that the SEC would come down on them like they have in so many other companies. But now that fear seems to be mostly out of the way now, what's one of the first things that VeVe should start to focus on now that they don't really have to worry about the SEC as much as they had to?
Well, so I'm going to stop you a little bit. Like,
yeah.
It depends, right? So if VeVe is going to be conservative, they're going to wait for actual laws to be passed. Do I think they have to be conservative right now? I don't think so. I think that pulling back those lawsuits, and Hester Peirce, she's a rock star, right? And she's already, setting up meetings to really start to figure out how to create clear and concise guidelines around, what is a security, what isn't a security. So like, I think that's in the process. So I would say like the risk of, if they really started to talk about OMI and really build that out of them getting targeted, is really, really small at this point, but it's not zero. And so what do I think is going to happen? I think that they're going to wait until there's more clear and concise guidelines, which probably within the next 6 months, we should have a clear picture of that. I hope that they don't. I think that they really can start focusing on the token, right? And looking at like, I mean, I think that that's what they're trying to signal to everyone is like, hey, we're not going to go after. I mean, and they pulled it back. Didn't they pull back the XRP lawsuit too?
I believe so. Yeah, they did.
Yeah, let me make sure on that, because that to me would be like the biggest thing. Well, two things: the Bored Ape Yacht Club for like digital collectibles, right? And if they're pulling that away, but then also, the XRP lawsuit with the OMI token. Yeah, let's see. So if that's the case, then it's like, I mean, I feel like they're signaling to the space like, hey, we're gonna pull back. Now, I also think that they'll be more reasonable. So if they do start to do things and then they're like, oh, maybe we shouldn't be doing this, they can reach out. Like, and that's the problem is you had like Robinhood that was like, hey, SEC, we got some questions. This is kind of what we're doing. This is what we're thinking. And then SEC is like, thanks, we're going to sue you now thank you for telling us all the information. Whereas now I think it's going to be very different, is to have those conversations to try to get in compliance. So it's going to be a lot more friendly. So what should they focus on? So let me get to that question now that I've said, what do I think they'll do? What I wish they do? What they should focus on truly is really talking about how, getting OMI to NFT for all of their IP, releasing that. Like that's the biggest thing. And then talking about the utility of this token, how you can do that, right? And how honestly there's some great discounts. You can just talk about like that. So it's not about like, value go up. It's just saying, hey, on our app right now, you can get it in, 1,300 gems for this, but you can get it for $1,000 worth of OMI on Stacker or something, I think those two things, man, it's going to bring a lot of attention to it. And in tandem with that, the affiliate program. I think those three things combined would be massive.
I think so too. I love that about Stacker, is that we have discounts. It works for the buyers, works for the sellers. Do you think that might be a little too much though, where they have the app, they have Stacker, and even though right now you can't buy any comics with Stacker, you likely will in the future. Right now you can buy most of the comics on the app, but the new stuff you want to get on VeVe Comics, that's your third thing, VeVe Comics. And then if you want to read it, you can't do it through the app. You have the app reader, and now you have VeVe Verse. So there's already 5 different things. Does any part of you feel like they should try to consolidate a little bit, or is that just, does that work out better for them because they have 1,000 users here, 1,000 users there, and they have multiple things that have multiple different users, and it just kind of pads the numbers a bit?
I mean, the more that you can have in one space, the better. Like, people are lazy. I'm lazy, right? And so sometimes it's just like, I'm like, I got to go to the VeVe Comics website to go buy some of these comics. That's a pain. I'll do it, but like, I would buy so many more if it was just like on VeVe on the app. I would. So that's, I mean, I get it. Like, they want to keep those separate, but I would just say if they can devise ways, even if it's within the app and there's like take me to this from the app type thing, right? That would work for me, because I'm like, oh, I'm already in the app, then I'm gonna do this, and then I could jump right back into the app. But like having to open up another browser window and do that. So the more they consolidate, the better, just because, again, like, people, there's this awesome book that, if you haven't read, is amazing. It's called Nudge. And it basically talks about like the power the people the people who set defaults on things have over the general population, because I can't remember the percentage, but it's like 70 to 80% of people don't change the default, right? And they did these studies about like the lunchroom, right? So like whatever dish was placed first in the lunchroom, that dish was taken more often than any other dish, right? Whether it was carrots, yogurt, or a dessert, it like didn't matter. It was like the first option. And so people just like grabbed it, right? I mean, it's cool stuff. And so it's the power of default. So like the default is the VeVe the VeVe app, right? That's where people go. That's the default. And so the more things that you can access from that app, the better, and the more activity that they're going to get across all those other platforms.
That makes sense. We have, so soon of VeVe Verse, Truck and Hank says, what happens when people start making inappropriate showrooms with the collectibles? Is there something regarding that in TOS? So 2 things on this. Mr. MC1 had posted like a VeVe Verse etiquette thing that we should all follow, and I thought that was really cool. The TOS, I'll tell you this. I wasn't banned, but there was a post I made in August of 22 where I was at this place called Dragon Con. It's like a Comic-Con, but in Atlanta. And there was this girl dressed as Ursula, the evil witch lady thing from, yeah. And I was like, I have this Ursula. I had the little Disney minis, the Disney villain things. I was like, hey, I showed her to her. I was like, can I take a picture of you with this? And she said, yeah, that's awesome. And she had like a lot of cleavage showing, which, like whatever. So I posted it on the app in the feed, and then it got taken down. So like, this is inappropriate. I was like, okay. So clearly there's things, but that's on the app where everyone can kind of see it. Whereas if you're in your own space, you can only get there via invite link. So I think I'm interpreting that as it should be okay. But at the end of the day, it is still it is still Disney intellectual property, and doing something like with having like the Steamboat Willie looks like he's whistling, and then if you have Captain America standing next to him, where it looks like Steamboat Willie's going, they're probably going to go in and say like, hey, you gotta take this down.
The fact that like, you already have examples, bro.
So that was another thing that got taken down. Somebody posted it on
X. I was like, Randy, come on, bro. Come on,
man. Yeah, that wasn't my creation. That was funny though. But yeah, I don't know. What do you think? I'm all for freedom. I think people should be able to do what they want. But what are your thoughts?
Well, I think the big concern is what the IPs want, right?
No.
So like I don't have any say over that. I think that if it's something that you have to invite people to come see, right? You know, and maybe they have to have a disclosure or something. It's like, hey, if you've got inappropriate content, you need to make sure that, like, or there's a warning in there that says, like, as you're about to enter, hey, this, you know, this isn't appropriate for a certain age group. But I don't know what like the laws against that are, right? Because like that's a whole nother thing. If it's like, okay, on the web and you're inviting someone into this and you're showing inappropriate content, could VeVe get in trouble for that? And so maybe they put in that in terms of service and they ban that because of that. Like, so I don't know. I'm not familiar enough with like those type of laws, like child protection laws, as to, you know, what's okay and what's not okay. But I'm with you that like if you could have like a disclosure in there, then, you know, I mean, you should be able to make of it what you want, especially since it's not really seen by the public. And maybe that, because it's an invite only thing, maybe that excludes some laws or offers some protections or something. I don't know.
I mean, obviously, if you say it's your own, and again, I'm all for this, but if you say like, hey, it's your space, you can do what you want, I feel like people are going to take that like maybe a little too far, and they're going to have like, I mean, you could go one way with love going one way. They're like, oh, it's like a virtual, oh, you pay me 20 gems, and then you get to see me all scantily clad. And then I guess it could be the opposite way. It'd be like, hey, it's a VeVe FUD hater space or whatever. Come in, and then we do rituals, anti-Randy Chavez rituals, and we make little dolls of him and poke him with needles, and I maybe like voodoo type stuff. I don't know. But yeah, just different ways that it could go. Speaking of IP, they have not Disney. Warner Brothers had their Q4 earnings call the other day, and they kind of missed earnings. They did have a little bit of revenue, but it was below the forecast revenue they wanted. It was still like $10 billion, still a lot of money. But they had canceled some stuff. They had canceled like a Wonder Woman video game. They had canceled a bunch of their DC stuff. And that got me thinking, like, VeVe's continuously adding these licenses over, especially on VeVe Comics. I can't prove this, but ever since Dark Horse Digital kind of said like, hey, we're ending our digital stuff, I feel like they'll be on VeVe at some point. David's always talking to licensors. I've had this want and belief that DC Comics could be on VeVe as well. I don't have any of their stuff that's on Candy. I think you do. Can you tell me, be like, Chavez, just let it go, man. It's on Candy. It's always going to be on Candy. VeVe's not going to get this one. Or be like, you know what, maybe the numbers on Candy aren't that strong, but maybe VeVe can do a better thing. What's your thoughts? Can they get him?
I mean, down the line, potentially, you know, and I don't know how that looked because, I mean, Candy took over DC Comics, right? Or, I mean, what was it? It was it DC Comics? I'm trying to remember what it was even called before then now. I'm DC3?
Candy did. I know what you're talking. It wasn't. They didn't take over DC.
I can't believe that. I don't remember. I mean, it was the Bad Cows, but it was like DC. I swear it was like DC. But yeah, like they migrated over to Candy, right? Like so they like merged. It's not out of the realm of possibility, right? I think for now, I think that they're fine, and it might be that like, you know, maybe DC's a little salty that they didn't get royalties for the first year or something like that on some of their stuff, and they felt hard done by, and then Marvel comes in and they get the royalties. And I mean, I know that DC has royalties now, but like I don't know. And I know that DC, like compared to like Marvel's like controlled like from like a single entity, where I feel like DC is like fractured. There's a lot of like different segments and things. And so I think that like, you know, maybe the people who do like the collectibles have no say over like, well, because isn't Jim Lee over the comics and stuff, right? Like, isn't he?
Palm.
It was Palm.
Yeah, man, Palm.
That's crazy. Palm. Yeah. I forgot. Jeez, that's wild. That's really sad that I don't even remember Palm.
Thanks, VeVe.
But yeah, thanks, VeVe. Yeah, man, that's wild. But not out of the realm of possibility. But I think for now, I think that they're fine with the numbers that they're doing. But at some point, right, especially VeVe really takes off, you better believe that that person, whoever's over that, is going to be like, man, like once this contract's done, I think we got to bounce, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Give me a second. I think that I left my burrito out. I need to go put it in the fridge. I'm going to be right back. I don't want to get
eat it.
No, yeah, hold on. I'll be right back. Peace out.
Okay. Yeah, I want to go back to the inappropriate showrooms. I would love that. I think that'd be great. That's another way that VeVe can just, I don't know if they would take, if you charge for your showroom, I don't know if VeVe should be able to really take any piece of that. And maybe they might be like, well, yeah, you have your showroom, but it's on our land. It's like if you have some rancher down in like Texas that has a whole bunch of land, and then this group comes in and rents the land, and then they start, like have like a weed farm on there, and then suddenly you just like, well, the landowner's going to want his piece, right? It's my land, I should get a piece. Maybe that could happen with VeVe, where if people start going on there and they pay them so that VeVe gets a piece. That's probably fine for normal business practices, but again, if you have a girl or guy on there that is just doing an OnlyFans type of thing on there, and you guys chat about, adult and NC-17 stuff, then yeah, it's I don't know if people would even want to have any of those gems or any of that money that was made off of that. Yeah, that gets into a really, maybe I'll ask Ben about that. Yeah, I'll come on in the next video. Let me go to my notes here, and this will be a note for Ben that, what about NSFW VeVe Verse spaces? And then I'll see what he says. I'll let you know. I am Groot. Says tariffs killing all markets. U.S. is losing allies left and right. What happens when we have no friends? The enemy is my friend. I think a lot of this is really short-term stuff. Maybe it's not. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's longer. Maybe I'm too optimistic. Maybe a little too naive. But I mean, you've had this happen before, where Colombia is just like, no, we're not going to take any of these people back in our country, and literally like 12 hours later, yeah, we'll take them back. So like, when you had Zelensky on Friday night kind of leave the White House in like a huff and say like, we're going to fight, the U.S. will be sorry, and literally later today they're just like, yeah, we're ready to sign those mineral rights away. Like it literally took like 72 hours. Like, so I think people are blowing it out of proportion. I don't know if that's what you want to talk about. I started reading that when you were gone. So
no, I mean, it's interesting, man. I had a really good conversation with a buddy of mine. We're on complete opposite ends of the political spectrum, but like the problem with all this stuff is, man, is that like it's gotten to the point where people can't talk to each other and be respectful when you disagree, and like that's not okay, you know. But I agree with you on the tariffs stuff. I think there's a lot of political grandstanding that's happening, but like economically, it will crush these countries. Like we have a lot of money that we pay for these imports into the country, right? Like the amount of things that we export to Canada or to Mexico compared to what we import. Now, if they're determined enough, they can really structure, and reconfigure, right, their imports and exports and all that. But that takes a long time. And are they willing to pay the political consequences of that, right? Because at some point, then the people get mad because now they're not getting things that they need, right? All of the production factories, they're not getting stuff, or they're not making money, right? And then all of these people are unemployed. They have to let go of people as these factories. So there's a lot of time. And that's the thing is, that's why I think that you see some of these turnarounds so quickly, is because the economic impact that it has is substantial and it's immediate, where the fix is a lot longer term, medium term, right? At least medium term, no real short-term fixes for that. And so that's when, and my understanding, right, is that he's sitting here saying like, we pay way more like taxes, like as we're exporting, like, why are we doing that? Yeah. Why do we have to pay more export taxes? And then we're not charging you as much like tariffs there. So like we're going to charge you more, until we can get on an equal ground. And I think that he's using that as a negotiation tactic. And you know what? He did that back in 2016 too. There was a whole NAFTA agreement. And he was like, this whole free trade thing is hosing the US. And both Canada and Mexico were like, oh, and everyone, all these like economists were like, this is a terrible idea. This has been in place for a long time. And then there was a new agreement, and it was better than NAFTA. And now
Right.
I think he's just slowly moving that back. But I agree with Groot, though, right? Like, is it killing the markets right now? Oh, yeah, it's killing the markets. And it's making a lot of enemies. And I don't know, like, the problem is we say that our allies, and I think in a way that they are, but it's kind of like your friend who's only there when they need help, right?
Yeah,
Like,
I know
you
exactly
know,
where you're going with it.
yeah, like Canada is like, oh, we're going to stand up and help Ukraine. They've got like 42 jets or something like that, right? So they can send like 16 jets over to Ukraine. Like, that's what they got. That's their help. And like, that's giving up like 30% of their air force. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and the reason that they're not too afraid is because if they get attacked, they know that the US is going to step up, right? We're the ones with the military and all that. So like, that's the problem, is the US has been forking out. And I'd say the US, right, as taxpayers are forking out all of these taxes to pay for stuff like that, right? And so anyways, it's interesting, but there's a lot of people who, like, a lot of countries who are not happy right now. And if enough of them get together, it could truly be substantially devastating for the US economy too.
Yeah. So I understand what you're saying is like, hey, it's like those people, like, are they really your friends? Like, oh yeah, we go out to dinner all the time. Okay, well, who pays for that dinner? Like, okay, well, the US. Yeah, and do they ever pay? Do they even offer to pay? No, they don't. And that's the other countries, whether it's in Europe or Canada, they don't do that. So I understand what Trump is doing. This has been a horrendous deal for us for the last X amount of decades. But yeah, my bags are way down. And every time he talks about tariffs, like, and I feel like now, just to play devil's advocate here, I like a lot of stuff that some of the Trump administration says, and even his kids, they seem like they mean well, but almost every time Eric Trump tweets about, like, it's probably a good time to buy ETH, it literally goes down in like a massive way, and it's like, hey, we should really buy the dip, and then it just absolutely gets depleted like the next day. And it's like, as a crypto guy, again, I understand what he's doing in the long term, but in the short term, it's like, oof, this is not fun. Like, I am straight up not having a good time. Do you think there's any chance that he loses the crypto vote, or Republicans lose the crypto vote by midterm elections, because our bags have been so savagely wrecked?
No, because I think that our bags will pump before then.
That's
It's one of the most ridiculous things. So like my undergrad degree is in economics, right? And one of the things that really bothers me on both sides of the political spectrum, right, is like when some new president comes in, and like immediately the other side is like, oh, looks like their economic policies aren't working. Look, like prices are still up, and all this stuff. And it's like, they know that it's lying and it's manipulation. It takes time for economic policies to take effect. It does. And so, like, honestly, like some of the things that, like, when Trump inherited, when Trump came in 2016 and the economy was doing like better than it had been, right? Like, he doesn't get to take credit for that. Like, those were policies that Obama implemented, right? Obama spent a lot of money, raised the national debt, but he put a lot of money in the economy and got that going. And so when he comes in, and even within 6 months, if he's like, oh, look at how things are doing great now, and it's like, no, like that's like not really how like economic policies work. It takes time. And so with crypto laws and things that are being passed, now if he sits there and says, and I believe he's going to, right, and correct me, and maybe he has, I know there's been rumors about certain US tokens not having capital gains tax.
So
US based corporations and their tokens.
Yeah.
And so if that happens, right, and like there's still like a lot of talk about Trump and his team all wanting the US to be the crypto capital of the world. And one of the ways to do that would be to offer no capital gains tax on US based crypto companies and their tokens. Do you know how many companies would then move over to the US, right? And start there, and have, there'd be requirements of like, you've got to have this many employees or whatever that is. And really, I think that would be pretty big, right? I think that Debbie would reestablish himself in the US. Well, they started in the US, but then they incorporated in Switzerland, right?
Yeah, but the token was founded in the. I don't know if that makes a difference if it was founded in the.
I don't know. The problem is we don't have the law yet. You know, like you'd
Mhm.
have to put forward like what it is, but then companies could figure that out and say, okay, well, we're going to move there. This is how we're going to restructure it so that maybe we're incorporated in Delaware now and we have operations in the US. And then that makes us, you know, because anyone who does that, people are going to seriously look at those tokens, like
and buy them just
really,
because
really
of that.
hard, right? Like, so, I mean, like I absolutely would. So, like, and I'm just this little teeny minnow, right? But you got whales who would absolutely be transacting and looking at those tokens and things and find arbitrage opportunities, all of that stuff. So I guess where I'm going with that is, by midterm now, if I don't know if they lose the crypto vote, if they've also, even if the bags are down, if they've offered more transparency and established a lot more clarity in what the regulations are. Because like that's been the hardest thing. Can you imagine you're starting this company and you're like, hey, I just want to know if I'm doing things right. Right. So you go to the government or, you know, the regulator and you're like, I just want to make sure that I'm doing things right. And they're like, we're not going to tell you. So good luck. And like, what do you do? Right. Like all you can do is look at these lawsuits that are going on and be like, does that apply to us? Like, we don't think it does. And so we're going to go for it. But then who's to say, right? Then the SEC, right, doesn't come after you afterwards. Like that's a terrifying thing, right? As you're raising capital and investors are like, this is too sketchy for me. I don't know. No one knows like what the rules are. So I think that if they can really establish clear and fair rules around it, then things will get a lot better.
Yeah. So I 100% understand this, and I think eventually it won't matter when narratives come back and altcoin season starts. Everyone's gonna be super happy, but and again, playing devil's advocate here, it seems like where Trump goes on and says like, hey, the Trump organization has filed for a trademark for Trump to launch a metaverse and NFT trading platform. That's great. And it seems like a couple of his buddies might be writing laws to where, okay, American companies can do this, and then VeVe might be out, and then a lot of his donors that were crypto people, you know, like it's not just a Bitcoin reserve and ETH. He's also adding Solana, XRP, and Cardano in there, and it's like, okay, that's a lot of what his constituents had donated, and it seems like the rich are getting richer and the poor, us poories, are not. Now, again, obviously, I'm playing devil's advocate here. I think it's all good for the crypto space, but I feel like a lot of the normal people that are kind of being, especially washed out, like the manipulation is insane with going from like $99,000 Bitcoin to 72,000, up to like 92 again, down to like 82. And I feel like that's just, and I get it, like welcome to the markets, but a lot of manipulation, liquidating a lot of these longs, and a lot of people that do those are kind of people that don't really have a ton. Does Trump going and filing for his NFT and metaverse narrative or NFT trading platform with a metaverse as well, could that potentially be bad for VeVe? Because they might write the laws in which only American metaverse companies benefit and foreign ones might not.
I mean, that's a possibility. Like, but then could VeVe incorporate in the US?
I've wanted them to do that for years. I hope so.
Yeah, and I don't know New Zealand law or like how any of that works, right? But that's the thing, right? If you incentivize these companies to make it make sense financially to build in the US, like they're going to do that, right? But a lot of companies went out of the US because they're like the US is not crypto friendly. So we lost a lot of business. So if they can make it crypto friendly again and have incentives, like, hey, maybe you get tax benefits, right? If you come and build your stuff here or you move over. I mean, that could absolutely incentivize. Now, I mean, who knows if Dan and David want to move to the US or maybe they wouldn't have to. I don't know, right? Like, yeah. So guys, we got this backdrop. I'm not done like reorganizing my setup in the back. So I'm still here, but the setup's not good yet. So
that's why we're seeing
yeah, that's why we're seeing this green screen stuff. But I feel like by next week, like I should have everything
nice.
normal.
Yeah, I feel like this is the default background for people that are just like, hey, not ready to show my setup yet. Lori Brenner's had this. You got like is this just the default, or is this just the best looking one and the others are like?
I think it's the best looking one. There's like a blur. There's like a brick. That would have been funny. I should have just had a brick behind, brick wall behind me. But it's funny because like for work too, like there's this one specific office, like backdrop, or no, it's like a house, I think. Well, there's an office one, but then there's also this house one that looks really, really nice, and it's got like a grand piano in the back or something. No, not that one. But anyways, there's one that like a lot of like my colleagues use and stuff, and so we'll joke and be like, "Wait a second, where are you in the room?" Like I don't see it. I mean, because it looks like the exact same room, but yeah, so this is the default. I mean, there's the blur and then a brick wall. I guess that blur would be the default because that's the first option, right? But if you're looking for something nice, this is the first nice backdrop. There are other nice backdrops, but this is, I would say, of the nice backdrops, this would be the default. And so I just went to the first one. That's there. Yeah.
There's So I don't know if this is detour a little bit here. Well, I guess not too much. The IRS is set to fire like half their staff tomorrow, and people have been making jokes because like nobody really likes the IRS. People might know some people that work there, and they might be making good livings for their family. And we do have to remember they are people. But I love memes where it's like IRS store and someone makes it a spirit Halloween.
Okay. Man, the internet is like undefeated, man. Like
Are we too
I've
mean?
seen so many stores that went out of business, but then during Halloween, that's that is funny. That is funny.
Yeah. Are we being too mean here? And is this going to be a net negative for the economy? Because a lot of jobs in Washington from Doge are on the axe grinder. IRS is on the axe grinder. Are we going to inadvertently tank the economy by firing all these people? Or is it like they're getting severance pay? They have time to find another job. They'll be fine. I don't know if that's a legit concern or not.
Well, I do think it is a concern, to be honest. Like, so do I think that the government is bloated? Yes. Like I do, right? And like, I mean, I've talked to people that are like my sister's ex-boyfriend. He worked for this company and like that was like a contractor for the government, right? And like he was like, most of the guys here literally do nothing. They play games. They freaking play, yeah. And like and they're getting paid all of this money. And I was just like, that's such a waste. Like, but the narrative that I don't like, and this would be true for like anyone, right? There's always bad apples in anything, in any company, in any space, right? And like I guess like Elon sitting there painting it and Trump painting it as that like all civil servants are just like fat, lazy, evil, draining the taxpayer funds. Like that's bullcrap, right? There's a lot of people who actually went into civil service because they believed in the mission of serving the public and stuff. And there are a lot of people out there, and some of those people, their jobs got axed, right? You look at some people in the Forest Service. Like I love camping and hiking, and I'm so grateful for and I honestly, I have never once ever, when I've gone to the Forest Service, ever seen anyone just sitting there doing nothing. Like they're always doing something. And there's quite a few people who got laid off or, fired, just basically fired from that. And, but where it gets dangerous, right, is you get into certain agencies that like, first and foremost, aren't even taxpayer appropriated, right? They're funded by some other means, not by the taxpayer, and they're still axing that stuff too. And so like, I don't know, like it's weird because Elon had that tweet where he was like, okay, these government employees, they're going to give 5 bullet points. They got to tell us what they're doing. And really it's just to tell if these people are even real people. Right. And then, but now it's like, they're going to be doing it every week or something. Or so now I'm like, you just like gaslighting people. Like, so yeah, this is concerning because if they do take away too much from like Social Security, right? Or which is taxpayer appropriated, but like, then all of a sudden some of these services like aren't available to the people who need it. Medicare, you know,
Yeah.
I mean, one of the people they fired several people that like had the nuclear launch codes, and they're like, oh crap, we got to hire them back, right? Like,
Yeah, you can't fire those people.
I know, but like, so I didn't check Snopes or whatever. I didn't fact check that, so maybe I'm throwing that out. I shouldn't have thrown it out as an example until I vetted that. But like, anyways, there's that potential there when you take a chainsaw to things. And that's what's happening. It's a chainsaw. There's going to be a lot of collateral damage. And you take that to the wrong agencies, and that collateral damage can be severely harmful to the financial system. So, or the healthcare system. Like, I mean, I don't know, man. So
yeah, I feel like cutting from the VA is probably not something I would do, because I feel like they're pretty understaffed already, and people are pretty underserved that go there. But again, like, I don't know how many jobs are like BS jobs, how many are legit. I like Jason Pena say, we don't get our tax returns until September. We know Elon cut too deep. Yeah.
that's funny.
VeVe Zombies is a lot of mailmen in the cars. I'm a mailman. A lot of people in the office are worried, but I'm not. I have faith.
Well, see, but the U.S. Postal Service, they got exemptions, right? So correct me if I'm wrong, but VeVe Zombie, I don't think that you had to offer like 5 bullet points, right? And the other thing is like, I don't think that most civil servants care about putting the 5 bullet points down. I don't think that that's their concern. I think their concern is, are you using some sort of large language model to interpret whether or not like my job is important enough, or if I need to be let go? And if I don't word it in the way that like demonstrates like how valuable, like what my role is, and it might be a valuable role, right? But if I do that wrong, then your AI is going to say, hey, this person can be axed, you know? And like, I think that that's what they're concerned about, because I guess I was going to say, let's be honest, but like, honestly, we do have examples of like people who just all the way up the chain must not be doing much of a job, and they're getting paid a lot of money or some money to do that. With that example of my sister's ex-boyfriend, but like, I would have to assume that most federal agencies, there is like a reporting line, and the boss knows what their subordinates are doing, you know? And so again, I don't think that many people are worried about like, hey, explaining what they did the previous week, but worried about like, is this going to be interpreted in a way that says that like I am, I could be fired? And so, VeVe Zombie, like, I love it that he has faith. But I can understand why a lot of people are worried, and especially like, man, I love my mailman. Thank you for your service, VeVe Zombie. I love the postal service. I love getting mail and packages. I'm grateful for that. And it really sucks when things get delayed, right? And that's a whole nother thing. Like, what about medicines getting delayed? And that's why I think like the postal service, like, that's a pretty essential service. Why they were kind of exempt from that, along with like police and military. But there's a lot of other agencies out there that are pretty vital to like the economy of the United States, and you cut too deep there and it can be really, really harmful.
Yeah, the ability to communicate in that way, like that was one of the first things that was Thomas Jefferson made sure got done in the US, was establish the postal service, because it was that. Now obviously you have telephones, you have things like that, and I know a lot of people pay their bills online, so there's not as many, like bills going out. But if a route was deemed too expensive for Amazon, they would dump it on the USPS. And so this was like years ago, I don't know if they still do that, but that was one of the reasons why the postal service was in so much debt, and why they're operating at this huge loss, is because that they did stuff like that. I don't know how much of that is true anymore. This was in like 2016, 2017. I think even through it was in Trump's presidency. So I think it was in 2019. I remember when we started getting wrecked on shipping fees, and like my Pokemon card business was like suffering. I was like, oh no, now I have to charge people shipping, or a lot of shipping. Anyway, shout out to everyone in the comments here. Vegan things, Cardinal Ghost Slayer, Citrosi, Audacity, tell the American people they'll probably continue to boo the American, but not take it personally. It's against our policies being made. Man, yeah, like I don't know. As an America, I like boo our anthem. How dare you? Like, I understand why they're doing it. They're angry at the U.S., but come on, man. Anywho, in other news here, we could go. Shrek's not even on. We have DreamWorks, right, on VeVe?
Yeah, we do.
I don't understand, one, why we don't have Shrek yet, and two, have you seen the trailer for Shrek 5?
No, I've not seen it.
Looks awful. Like, do you remember what happened when Sonic first came out, like the first Sonic trailer?
No.
When that trailer had come out, Sonic just looked weird. It didn't look good, and the internet's like, y'all better fix this, or we're not going to freaking see your movie.
Oh, I do remember that. And they updated it. They did fix him, right?
Yeah, it did. There's something similar is happening with Shrek, where Shrek, Fiona, Donkey, they don't look anything like. Well, I mean, you can still tell it's them, but it looks like a discount version of them. It looks like, oh, we have Shrek at Home, and then the Shrek at Home is like completely different. The reason I bring that up is because we have Snow White that's coming out soon that Disney has not announced the drop yet for, and then we have Shrek 5, which looks awful, and I know for Little Mermaid, I think that made some money, so I think that was commercially a success, and we had a drop for that. But Snow White looks like a hot pile of poop ate another hot pile of poop, and then it pooped out another pile of poop. And I think it's good that VeVe has not put out announced a collectible for that, because I think it should stay far away. Is that something that VeVe should do, or is that something that be like, hey man, if they can make money, it doesn't matter. Do all the drops they want.
Man, I'd have to know so much more about the company before I offer something like that. My opinion on I don't know. Like you can't drop too many duds, because then people get disinterested, and then but if you mix it where there's exciting drops, then people are in and they'll probably get another drop. Anyways, but yeah, if you have too many duds in a row, then yeah, people kind of check out. And maybe they won't hear about an awesome drop, right? So then they're not even there for the awesome drop. So yeah, they're you do too many in a row, and that's it's not a good thing.
Yeah. So speaking of too many in a row, the first evolvables, I think the first two evolvables drop I got, they were cool, they were new, they were fun, they were exciting, and then I had issues both times with crafting. Granted, I used the app. That was my bad. I should not have done that. I should have gone to app.veve.me, the website, and done that, because crafting on there is generally much easier. I think bidding for stuff in general is much easier on that, whether it's MCP burns. But I did not have good experiences. The app has since gotten better. I don't believe there was as many complaints for Sabretooth. And then Ben posted the other day, VeVe official listens and they respond. And it was about a new evolvables drop that was coming. He teased Gambit, and it was great. I like Gambit. It looks fantastic. It looks so freaking good. The detail is amazing. I think the collectible, just on how it looks, probably worth the $15. However, they have one of the chief complaints that people have is that there's too many mints. And when he said we listen and we respond, I figured there would be less mints. There's not even the same amount of mints. There is, in fact, even more mints for this one. And because they don't burn, you're going to have just more mints in general. A lot of people are pretty upset about this. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, they touted, and I don't know what their feedback was, right? Because they're like, hey, we listened. And so maybe their feedback was like, hey, don't burn stuff. And just not burning stuff is going to make more additions. But I do find it interesting that they would offer even more additions and then not have than previously, and then not have any burns, because that's one of the things is scarcity, and so interesting. It's interesting to, I don't know, because I don't know what the feedback was. Maybe that was the feedback, is they're like, we want more additions. So then they do that, and then there's people who are complaining about it, right? And so they're just like, we can't ever win. But because I don't have insight into that, I don't know. But for me personally, right, I like the burning aspect of it. You know, I can still calculate and be like, okay, this is how much it's going to cost for, to get this whole set of things. And either I want it or I don't, right? And like, honestly, a lot of times, unless you were like chasing like a good mint, and sometimes you could even find a good mint from the commons, and so you could buy the commons for under retail. And you could buy like a crappy mint number for under retail, and then that would be the one you would burn, for the uncommon, and buy the uncommon off the market for under retail. So like, I feel like you could get it for cheaper if you wanted.
That's true.
But yeah, like with this one, like I don't like that there's more mints. To me, it doesn't make sense. But I love like what they look like. Gambit. So Gambit is my favorite superhero after Wolverine.
Nice.
I freaking have always loved Gambit, man. Like, it's funny because like I kind of hated Jean Grey. Like Wolverine loved Jean Grey, and like the fact that she went with Scott Summers, I always hated her for that, right? It's like I hate you so much. But like Rogue was my crush, man. Like I freaking loved Rogue, and like Gambit was just such a freaking smooth operator, dude. His little Cajun accent and just like his red eyes. Dude, I just loved Gambit, so I'm stoked. I was not a fan of Channing Tatum as Gambit.
Really? Oh, I like him.
No, I did not. I did not like him because like he was a little goofy. He was a little goofy for me. I felt like he was a little goofy. And now, man, like you need, I'm trying to think of just like someone who could just be so freaking suave. And that is not Channing Tatum to me. He did pretty good on the Cajun accent. I'll say that. I was pretty impressed. But anyways, going back to the drop, like I think that they look awesome. So I love that what they did there. I love that the MCP points are a little bit cheaper, but that you still need MCP points, right? But the number of editions, I would say that's the one thing that I didn't like.
Yeah, this drop is cheaper. The last Evolvables drops were $20. This one's $15. So maybe that's what they were talking about as well, where it is cheaper to buy them. So passing on that savings to the healthy consumer, I think, is nice. Speaking of revenues, they had a drop in January from Uptempo. It was the Running Mons. And the Running Mons, they had that phygital aspect where if you completed the drop from the store, the first 20 people to do that, they would get assigned a physical thing, which is likely worth at least what they got on the drop. They had done that again from Uptempo for this new thing called Oddly. It's from the same company, just a different artist, and both of these had grossed like between $35,000 and $40,000. And these are things that I've never heard of before. They're a very small company, 22,000 followers on Instagram, and that had outsold like the most recent Lambo drop. Like the most recent Lambo drop did like 25 grand, and that's after like weeks. Do you think that there's been a lot of criticism on VeVe for not being pure Web3, and they're like more like 2.5 or even 2, but clearly when they add the physical stuff and they make them phygital, that's what kind of been making them the decent amount of money. Should they lean into that? I feel like they should, but maybe I'm a little too money hungry here. And what are your thoughts?
The thing is, if they do it too much, then it's not as unique, and so then people get disinterested. So I like what they're doing, and that it's spread out, and so it does make it to me more valuable. Like that, there's not as many phygital collaborations there. And so, but yeah, I think that they should think long and hard. Like, I mean, like a signed poster, that just like didn't do it for me. You know what I mean? Like a signed collectible that of that piece, to me, that's way more. Like the why did I just blank out on his name? I love him.
VeVe artist?
Yeah, VeVe artist. Hold on, I got his.
Ron English, Gary Baseman, Brett Crawford, Jason Naylor. You have I can't tell what it's blending.
No, hold on. Dude, why am I blanking out on his name? He's the one that did, like, he does all the deconstructed pop art.
Deconstructive.
So like the Bart Simpson with like it's the skull, right? Like, and it's being blown away. And
oh yeah, I know you're talking. He had the back.
Matt Gondek.
Yeah.
Why, dude? He's like, he's like my favorite artist. Man, it's been a long day. So like when Matt Gondek did like that signature, and he's like, "Oh, I am painting some of these pieces." That speaks to me. But like a signed poster, not as big of a deal. So like had it been like, and I don't even know anything about these pieces that just dropped there. But I was like, a signed piece of that collectible, I would have been more interested in, even not knowing anything about that artist, than a signed poster.
Yeah, Sam, that's a good point, because there's probably not too many of those that in the world. Like, I don't know how often they would do that, especially for that particular piece. I feel like a lot of people, when they get their stuff autographed by artists, it's usually like their favorite piece. So if it's something that's newer, I feel like there wouldn't be that many. So it does give a true rarity. On Nintendo, even if you have to wait for Pokemon, Martin's, oh god, that'd be great. Be advised, there is no guarantee that even if we do get Pokemon, that we would get Nintendo, because Nintendo only owns a third of Pokemon, and if Nintendo doesn't want to do it, but Game Freak and the Pokemon Company say yes, let's do it, they can override Nintendo there. They could come on VeVe, and that doesn't mean that we get the rest of them. I would love it if we did, but yeah. E-commerce, yeah, unfortunately, tariffs can kill a lot of businesses. Anyway, Asian Dan had gone on and said, 5-minute impression of VeVe Verse is, I respect vault builders 1,000% more, and that's why they have that stuff over there on VeVe, or the vault builders business. That's going to happen. Vincent D'Onofrio is going to be at Comics 11 Expo event on March 8th in Queens, New York. He will be promoting the Daredevil Born Again. They're doing the Mayor Kingpin storyline. Have you seen the Defenders or any of the Daredevil series from back in the day?
Yes, I loved it. I was really sad when it they were so good. And Daredevil's little companion, like his sidekick, I really liked that guy. You know, like I thought it was great acting, like a good storyline. Kingpin was a freaking beast. He's a beast, dude. Oh, I loved him. So I'm excited. I'm excited for them to pick this back up again. Like it'll be good.
Yeah, I love Foggy Nelson.
No, sorry. Continue with that. I was just going to bring up, though, don't let me forget, like the series that's been going on for a while that I just started watching.
Series. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, Foggy Nelson, he doesn't look like him anymore, but he was a Basham brother from like the Mighty Ducks series back in the day.
Really?
Yeah, he was one of the Bashams. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. Anyway, what was the series that you gotten into recently?
Cobra Kai.
Oh, heck yeah. Bro, bro. All right, you go first. But yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, so I have this personal trainer, and we were talking, and so there's this workout. He calls it a flow, where it's kind of like multi-lifting like series that you do kind of like all together, right? And one of them is called Cobra Kai, right? And I was like, what the heck? And he's like, oh, like, I'm so stoked on the series. Have you seen the series? So he's like talking it all up, and I was like, I haven't seen it, man. And he's like, you gotta watch that. Like, if you liked Karate Kid back in the day. And so I was like, I'm in. And it's funny because like Johnny Walker? Like
Johnny Lawrence.
Johnny Lawrence. See, dude,
Johnny Walker's like the best whiskey ever, but
okay. Yeah, Johnny Lawrence. Like he's pretty stiff as an actor, right? Like he was good as a kid, and I'm like, what happened, bro? Like you're so, and maybe it gets better over the seasons as he kind of falls more into it. But I still like it, and like Daniel LaRusso, like the whole story, like I'm just getting into it. I'm like near the end of the first season, so I'm not into it very deep. And please don't give me any spoilers and stuff.
It gets so good. It's already good.
It's good now, right? Like I like, I mean, all of these little like things, and I won't talk, maybe people haven't watched it yet. I won't say anything, but like, I'm really enjoying it, man. I'm really enjoying it. So it would be fun to have a freaking like Daniel LaRusso Karate Kid collectible that you like tap and he freaking does the crane, you know, or whatever. Like, are you kidding me? Like, that would be awesome.
Yeah. I feel like anytime, even in like the bear markets, like Boba Fett sold out, RoboCop sold out, and it's like some of these things are not as great as so like they had Encanto drop, like the we don't talk about Bruno, like those characters, like, and that didn't do as well as like RoboCop. So like a lot of these like
Nostalgic.
yeah, like nostalgic Gen stuff that Gen X would really like is just
We have
oh
the
my god,
money,
no.
man. We're the
Yeah,
ones with the money, right? Like we're older, we're in our late 30s, mid 40s, whatever. And like, so that's the demographic. And like you hit the nostalgia and they're gonna go for it, right? Like I liked Encanto, like my daughter loves it, right? I don't love it. I liked it. I love that we don't talk about Bruno's song. Like it's a fun thing, but like, and even like Moana, like I mean, those don't speak to me, right? Like Back to the Future and RoboCop and like a lot of those '80s things. So Karate Kid, man, Ben, Dave, Dan, if you guys are listening, Karate Kid. I'm telling
yeah.
you, I feel like that would be an IP that would, Cobra Kai. That
Oh,
yeah, man. I think that would be pretty cool. Mr. Miyagi doing like the wax on, wax off or something like. Yeah.
it is. I think they're going to do a prequel series of like Mr. Miyagi, like when he was younger, like before he took on students. But like it, yeah. I hope they do that. Yeah, that'd be great. I would. There's so many drops that they could do with it. I won't mention because the seasons kind of blend in now. I've seen it multiple times. Um, but yeah, the seasons kind of blend in. So there's even certain things that like aren't major characters, but it's like, oh, this is cool, and I would even like those on DVD. Anyway, um, they have having more editions is not always a bad thing. Alcon wants to be the Walmart of this concept. Imagine going to Walmart and then being just out of all the items people want. It's a fair point. Um, and I know that even the 11,000 gambit that they have is not going to be enough when the narrative hits and suddenly we have 50,000 people on here. There's people that are going to stack them. That, like, it's not going to be enough, but that's not the reality that we have right now. And right now, it's if you put out these things, there are going to be people that might be a little salty.
No, so like, and I break stuff. First of all, I love that PFP. That's awesome with the little golden Vader. And it's a good point, right? And this is the thing that they have to balance, right? Weigh and measure is short-term success versus longer-term success, right? If they print more of those and they're saying, hey, down the line, we're going to be a household name, that's the right play, is to have more, right? Even if initially it doesn't sell out, right? Then you're going to get people, as they hear about it, they're going to be able to get in at a fair price, or reasonable price, and they're going to be stoked out of their minds to do that, right? And so obviously, I do think that VeVe they're very much long-term thinkers there. So, I mean, I'm just talking about it from like a very short-term perspective, and the company can't have that outlook. They do have to look longer term. So I respect them for it. Doesn't mean that, like, for me personally, right now, I like it, but I can definitely understand longer term why it would make sense to have more editions of popular characters.
Agreed. Even the stuff that, like the Encanto stuff, I think like that was one of the biggest things like in the world, and like next to nobody bought it. I feel like those people will come on and they'll get those eventually. They're just not here yet. And so that's something you mentioned before about saying like, hey, I think if VeVe's conservative, they'll wait until this legislation is actually passed and we actually have that regulatory clarity, not just words from the cryptos are saying here's the guidance. They want to have it into law. It's fine. And we likely get that, like you said, in the next 6 months. There are two types of thinking, really three, but two major ones that the NFT narrative will likely run last, and in which case 6 months is that's fine, because we might not run for another 8, 10 months, even a year. But then there's another group of people that think that when this happens, it's all going to happen at once. you can't predict exactly when that narrative will hit, and it could hit in Q2. And if it hits in Q2 and VeVe hasn't done anything, it's possible that we miss the narrative and we miss the bull run. Do you think that's a legit concern? Or is that something that is, hey, probably not going to happen? Chavez, you're worrying too much.
There's always a chance that they miss the bull run. I mean, they could. Like, we don't know when it's going to happen. And like, but like, at some point, a digital narrative, like collecting narrative, is going to happen, whether that's with crypto or just in mainstream, like has nothing to do with crypto, right? Like, I think that that's going to happen at some point, and that's what I care about, right? So like, whether it happens, I hope it happens soon. That would be great. That would be great. But if it doesn't, like I'm way longer term, like, and that's why I think that VeVe is thinking longer term, right? And so, yeah, like whether it happens now or in the future, I believe it's going to happen. And when it does, things are going to do very, very well. So, yeah.
I think so as well.
I love the daCAT family, dude. Dude, like, they are pro daCAT.
I mean, they're very pro daCAT. I got very lucky with them. The comic one is pretty much done. It's written. I just have to edit the storyboard and stuff like that. Slightly working on comic 2 now. We launched I gotta send you the daCAT chibi stuff that we've been doing. It's like because the comic is going to be a little more adult, not really for kids. So we decided to, in order to get the brand out there, to do like little shorts on YouTube. They're like 30 seconds. I should send them to you and show your kids and see. That's the best feedback from my friends' kids, and be like, "Oh, I like this," or my one friend's kid's like, "This is gay." I was like, "It's not supposed to be awesome. Like, it's not supposed to be this crazy. It's supposed to be for kids."
Yeah.
But it's good feedback. I like that.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I had my kiddos look at it. Let's see.
Oh yeah, Doxer for Mario Pikachu PSA 10. So there are 4 of those cards. This came out in 2016, I think, or 2018. It was a collab that Mario did with Pikachu. So there's 4 different cards. 2 of them are very similar. It's a Mario Pikachu and a Luigi Pikachu. They have the white hand, the white gloves, and then there's 2 full art cards. I think the entire set of PSA 10 goes for like $8,000. There's only 4 of those cards. Let me know if you see it and you think.
Yeah, I think it's pretty. I do like that Mario one. That's funny. That's way funny. And then the Luigi one where it looks like he's on. Oh, he's coming out of the little well, right?
The warp pipe.
The warp pipe, but instead of it being green, it's gray. So that's where I was confused. Then there's like this Joker, Pikachu Trump, BGS 10. I don't know.
Pikachu Trump?
I don't know. All right. I'm looking at different cards. Yeah, this is interesting. But okay, here's the Mario Pikachu. That is cool. And then I see the Luigi. But yeah, I'm seeing some other ones of like Mario and Luigi coming out of this, like, it looks like a well, like a gray brick well with a ladder, not the warp pipe, but similar to warp pipe. No.
Because that's not the, because those are the only 4 that are real. So it's that one, obviously that one with Luigi. So these are the 4.
Let me show you what I'm seeing here.
Yeah, show me on the stuff. Okay, hold on. Let me add to stage.
So what I'm talking about is I was seeing this. Let's see if this pops up here. This is what I was seeing. Mario Pikachu. Cool. But I was like, it's a poker deck. But yeah, so
yeah, it's like a
I don't know. I just typed in Mario Pikachu PSA 10, and but that's some of those popped up. But yeah, I see that Mario now that you're talking about, and the Luigi with the white gloves. And that's fun, man.
Yeah, Metaverse Life post a video of his VeVe Verse, and there was like Mario stuff in it. Like there were warp pipes, there were Koopas, there were Goombas, and a little Mario. I know you're allowed to import stuff inside there because metaverses are all about. But yeah, I don't know if they're going to let him keep that because obviously that's not licensed stuff. But I went over some numbers the other day about Axie Infinity, Decentraland, and Sandbox. They all have the. Okay, copy that. Gotcha. They all have the market caps that are like 8 to 10x of what OMI's at right now, even though OMI's VeVe Verse has more users, more IP, more NFTs, more revenue. I think at some point that corrects just because of the metaverse narrative. But do you think that's it? Do you think that OMI can just get to where the other ones are and that's it? Or because that's only like a 10x from here. That'd only be like 0003. How do we get back to all-time highs when the rest of the narrative or when the rest of the metaverse cryptos are kind of just a 10x from where we are?
I mean, I think a lot has to happen. But like, all I know is this, is that when we haven't even gotten anywhere close to euphoria, like in the last cycle, right at the end of 2021, it was insane, man. Like, I mean, it was like you threw money at anything, literally any junk project. Everyone was a genius. Yeah. You would like 2x your money. Like it was wild, and you're just like, none of this makes sense, right? Like, why is this token pumping? But there was just so much liquidity in there. And look, I've heard a lot of arguments about like we had all, the COVID, funds. People had all this extra funds, which is true. But like this time around, we're going to have institutional investors who are dumping money into the blue chip tokens. And then the people who bought those blue chip tokens early on are going to be able to sell and make some massive gains there, and then roll that into these lower, market cap altcoins and things. So every cycle is something is different, but to date, every cycle has had a euphoric stage where it just doesn't make sense. And so like logically, if VeVe or OMI, right, if the narrative hits with digital collectibles hits and they have all of their IP right on there that you can actually use OMI to purchase that's so essential. If you can buy OMI with a credit card on Stacker, right? So even like the Web 2 people can buy OMI or buy stuff right on Stacker that way. Like that's a big deal. And then the burns, now that we have the burns coming into play, man, like I definitely think it could happen. And those are some of the things that are going to happen if OMI is going to be able to surpass its all-time high. Is we're going to have like a blow off top euphoric stage, which I think is going to happen. You have to have OMI to NFT for all of their IP, which I think is going to happen. I think it's going to happen before the end of the second quarter.
That's soon.
That's not that, I guess, in 3 months, but like, yeah. They've had a lot of time. They've had a lot of time to get this out there, and like I don't know what they're waiting for at this point in time. So I can't see any reason why they won't do it. And so there must be some hold up, but what that is, for me, if it's not after if it's not before the end of Q2, I'm going to say, what's going on? Like, why aren't they? Like, what's the hold up? And that would be like a concern for me, because I can understand if they're like, hey, we kind of want Stacker. We want to see that this works, because when you're dealing with, crypto and making sure that the transactions are going through and everything is great. Like, I can understand that, but like, feel like this has been out a while now, how much more, testing do they have to do? And I'm not a dev, so like, I don't know for sure, like what they might have to do, but I don't know, man. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. If it's past Q2. What do you think?
About when the narrative hits? or
The
about
OMI NFT timeline for all of their IP, and then the other part too.
you've had, and again, I know delays happen all the time. Earth 2 version 1 was supposed to be out like 3 years ago. It's finally out now. We were supposed to get OMI to NFT, I think, in like November and then January, and now in late January, Stacker had said, "Hey, we're a couple weeks out from having more IP." It's been like 5 weeks since then, and you know, it's like I know that delay. I know delays happen. Cybertruck finally, after like X amount of years, you know, finally being delivered and stuff. But I'm more confident in Ben rolling out the affiliate program before I am that Stacker rolls out with their OMI to NFT, and their other licenses. In order to be a true metaverse token, we would need to have something, and this could be completely independent of Stacker. We would need to be able to buy something in the VeVe Verse. In the beta testing, you were allowed to buy plants and lights, or not buy them, but essentially use them for free. Now that if you want to brighten up a dark corner, I'm not saying charge $20 for a plant, charge $1. Like these microtransactions are what made Among Us like a $1 billion game, is because everyone is just like, oh, let me get this toilet paper hat, let me get this space crab, let me get this scarf, let me get this. VeVe Digital Collectibles here coming in when of course I'm like butting. Sorry. We are constantly working and improving. Thank you for your show and your feedback. And again, I can't express how much unseen work has been done and how much unseen stress that the company and the leaders and the founders have had to go through. And I hope that's exemplified in the Netflix documentary, Disney documentary, like whatever documentary you guys are doing. And then people will know, like, oh my God, what y'all did for us. But here in the now, if they could just do one or two tiny products, like, hey, have this randomizer and you're going to get a random rock, and some of it will look really cool, like this Charizard Cheeto that sold for $87,000. It's a Cheeto in the shape of a Charizard, has nothing to do with Pokemon, yet it sold for $87,000. They could just like, you could get a really cool rock, you can get a really cool looking stick, and it's a VeVe rock, it's a VeVe stick. You could get Recur toilet paper. I don't know if that IP is still around, whatever, but have it so that we're able to do something with OMI instead of waiting for Stacker. Because again, I recognize the utility of saying like, hey, you can take your OMI and buy a collectible with it via Stacker and then use that collectible in the VeVe Verse. That is utility. I agree. I also agree that the utility for OMI on the app was getting MCP points and getting bronze tickets. However, the rest of the world is like, that's not real utility. And again, you had to bow down to the SEC because they were suing everybody. And that's why you had to create a third-party user. But I think that going in and saying like, hey, you're able to use this OMI to buy collectibles, and you can use those collectibles in the VeVe Verse. I agree that's utility. I think that should qualify OMI for a metaverse token, but I know there's going to be fudders. There's going to be other people. There's going to be other places that are going to list metaverse token ETFs, and OMI won't be in it if that's the only utility that we have. If there's something that's available inside the VeVe Verse able to be transacted for OMI, and maybe they can't do the gambling thing because of sweepstakes laws, whatever that is, that just something. And again, I believe in Ben's ability to, even if it doesn't work at first, like the app. They had the app come out, wasn't great at first, and now the app is as good, if not better, than it was before the update. You have the evolvables drop that again was not perfect at first, and they continuously improve every drop. So I believe in Ben's affiliate program. He says is going to happen in Q1, even if it's not great at first. I guarantee you it'll get better. I think if Ben, and I know Ben likely has 30 other different things that are arguably much more important than this. But I think Ben also knows that one of the ways to grow VeVe users, which is tied to his income as somebody that gets bonuses based on how many VeVe users are there, he knows that last time a lot of users came in through the token. And I don't think he's like forgotten that. Like I'm sure he did his homework, and I'm sure that is a thing. I feel like I've gone on here for way too long. Stop me. Like, by all means, stop. I know you asked me like one simple question, and I gave you this like dissertation. I'm so sorry. Forget what we were talking about.
Well, I just was tripping out about Cheetosard. I have a question about that. Okay. Was it intentionally made?
No, it just was one of those things like, oh, this looks like a Cheeto, doesn't it? It was like two brothers or something. Yeah.
There's no way.
Yeah, this Cheeto looked like a Charizard, and these two bros, they like put it in like this little box thing, and they like forgot about it, and then they had like announced it again like a year ago. They got crazy types of offers, and they went to Golden, and Golden's like, yeah, let's do this. We'll make some coin on this. And
yeah. I mean, because I looked at that and I was like, it looks like someone intentionally tried to make like a Charizard, right? Like that's wild to me. I like that's sus. Like that. I mean, I don't know, but yeah, sorry, I got caught up on that. But like, I love and this is what I love, man. And again, like whether it's my collectables or Ben Rose or just like the VeVe team, they're constantly out here supporting content creators. Right. And they are constantly working and improving. And I appreciate that. I appreciate they do listen to feedback, and they don't always get it right, but like they're trying, you know what I mean? And like, that's why like that, when I look at like metrics of like, people are like, oh, the price is going down. Shouldn't you be concerned? And I'm like, I'm concerned if VeVe's not making money and if they're not continuing to try to evolve as a company, right? If they're getting stagnant, that's when things get concerning. The price will come as long as the company is still around and a narrative hits along the lines of OMI, right? But like even just like the collectibles, like I think that if they continue down this road, it's not a matter of if, but when. When digital collectibles become the thing. And like we're just seeing this, guys, and like I don't know what else to say. There's so many instances where we can look back and be like, of course this was going to happen. The writing was on the wall, right? And all I know is that my kids right now, they will play with my VeVe digital collectibles as long or longer than their physical toys, right? They love me doing the videos of them getting shot by Iron Man or getting smashed by Hulk, right? Like, honestly, they still love that, right? And like at some point, I'm like, I got to teach them how to do this themselves, man, because like I can't do this for 3 hours. You know what I mean? Like, but the kids nowadays, they're like born with an iPad in their hand, like, and that's sad. That's sad. Like, I think about like my childhood and like going around, running around trees and like my imagination, and like it's just different. And I still try to get my kids outdoors to go camping, to do that and experience some of that. But they just understand technology so much better, and they are more comfortable with digital stuff. They just are, And so as time goes on and the technology improves and things get cheaper, like metaverse and AR and VR, all of that stuff, like it's coming down the pike. And like the people who just don't see it, when it finally hits, there's going to be the same people who are like, oh, of course it was going to hit. Of course. Right. But we're the ones doing all this stuff. And VeVe's at like the cutting edge of a lot of these digital collectibles and working with IPs. And I love that. So VeVe, thank you for supporting content creators and taking the time to listen to the community. You guys don't always get it right, but I think that most of the community does a great job of offering, constructive criticism or positive feedback on things. And that's what's important. You get the fudders who just like attack everything. And it's like, that doesn't help anything. Or people like rage, quit when the new app came out and like, it wasn't the best. And I still, so I'll give you a perfect example of how they try to listen and they're just like, what can we freaking do? When I go into the marketplace, I personally want to see the lowest price. Like that should be the default. And I'm always having to change it to the lowest price. And that drives me nuts. However, there's a contingent of VeVe users who are trying to snipe the market, right? And so they need the most recent listing on something because you know. And so I think that that's what they went with, is the most recent listing, because there's so many people who are complaining about, like, hey, I can't snipe the market anymore because I don't know what's just recently been listed. So that's the default. But they listen, right? And then they can just never get it right first. They can't please everyone. And if you please everyone, you please no one. And so, yeah, like, I appreciate that they do try to listen, and they're doing the best they can. And there's still ways to go in certain aspects of it, right? But I just applaud the fact that I look at all the other competitors in the space, and they're crushing them. All these other competitors have a lot of them have gone by the wayside because they just spent their money too quickly and they burned out. Or others are finding out it's not as easy as VeVe has made it look to be successful, right? I hope that Cryptoids really can pull through and can be a competitor and offer things. I hope that, these Disney pins with Flow, that can, like, the more options that are out there will bring, because some people are only going to like pins. And then they're going to be like, oh, like, wait, VeVe has pins, or what's this? They're going to look for other digital collectible pins. So, like, it's a way that they can all grow together. There's a lot of room in this space for a lot of companies to kind of build this out. But VeVe is at the forefront of all of that. And, despite what the FUDers say, and despite some of, the very, very delayed promises, like, I've just seen VeVe continue to work out a lot of the promises that they had made. And I applaud them for that.
Agreed. There's obviously a lot to be, like, I think they've already kind of soft launched their affiliate program without really, like, officially launching it. There are sponsored spaces every night, if not multiple times per night. And VeVe is making sure that the community building is not only staying alive, but they're showing you that if you continuously make content, and if you go on and you are putting your time out there and you're hosting spaces and you're doing all this, you will get rewarded for that. And that's something that I don't see anyone doing spaces. I never saw people do spaces on, maybe somebody did a space on, like, Reefer, like, years ago, but I just don't see that for Cryptoids. I don't see that for any other digital collecting company. So one, that's giving back to the community, and two, that's going in and saying, hey, we can afford to do this, and other companies seem to just not be able to right now. And they're doing it for, I think, the low price of likely gems, which is, again, kind of paid for by the community anyway. So this is something that is pretty nice. They've got a good thing going. I don't know how they plan to expand, but I'm very, very curious to see how it rolls out. Again, by the end of the month, they'll officially do it. I mean, that was Ben's last words. I don't know if they're going to have an update for us on that, or if they're just going to be like a video. Have you seen Falcon's videos where like the metaverse stuff, where sometimes Ben and Dan will be on?
Yeah, I've loved those. Yeah, absolutely.
Hopefully they have stuff like that. I mean, they've had I think, like, 12 videos drop in a day talking about, like, here's how to sign up for VeVe Verse, here's how to put on the lights, here's how to do all their stuff. So I could picture them having something like that for the affiliate program as well. Maybe not 12 videos, but, what else did you want to go over? I know you had to bounce pretty soon.
Man, I'm trying to think. The Gambit thing was a big thing for me. I am really excited. And they did such a good job on that. I think I need to get into the VeVe Verse. Hopefully I can get in sometime this week, and really start checking it out, because that's the other thing is, like, to be able to really speak to it, I have to get in there, and I've heard a lot of things where it's kind of hard for some users to get acclimated to a lot of the changes, but there's so many people out in the community that are willing, to offer advice and to help walk people through that. So if you guys are doing that, maybe I'll have to reach out to, VeVe Twitter and be like, hey, how do I start building this? But other than that, man, I just think that it's wild to see this space, and I thought by now we'd probably be in a massive bull run, and it has not turned out to be the case. But like, I still feel like the thesis is correct. It's just the timing is completely different, and there's a lot of things in play. But regardless, I think that if you're here for VeVe and you get the collectibles that you like, you're gonna win, right? I love my Wolverine collectibles. I love my Iron Man collectibles. I love my Matt Gondek art. I love my DeLoreans. Like, there's so much about that. So I'm grateful. I'm grateful that I found not only VeVe and all this stuff, but the community that's there too, man. What up, Mr. 41? And Mr. 41 is a perfect example of just such an awesome, like, member of the community, man. It's just such a cool guy. There's so many cool people out there. So extremely grateful for that. But other than that, like, I don't have a lot else to talk about. Again, I've kind of been like my head down, just like nose to the grindstone with work and personal stuff. So I haven't been able to keep my head up, above water for very long. But that's why I was like, man, I got to come on tonight and just, chat with you and the fam for a little bit.
Yeah. Obviously, I always appreciate that. Love these chats. Let's talk off camera for a bit because there's a couple of things to go over there as well. Everyone, shout out for being here. Y'all are my bays. Everyone say bye-bye to Dashi. Bye-bye, Dashi. We love you. Hi, guys. Meow.
It's crazy.